Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Thor, issue number 12, is part of the War of Realms tie-in. Make sure you read issue number 1 of War of Realms before you read this one. If you want to read issue 2 before, which also came out this week, by all means, there's no particular order. Just make sure you read War of Realms 1 before you read this. It's kind of crucial. Anyway, we get into this book, War of the Lokis. This issue is called. Writer Jason Aaron, artist Mike Del Mundo, VC's Joe Sabino on letters and production. The logo is by Jay Bowen, and the cover artist Mike Del Mundo, with the variant cover artists Oliver Koipel and Matthew Wilson. And Thor was created by Stanley, Larry Lieber, and Jack freaking Kirby. So Loki has to deal with a whole bunch of versions of himself. It's very Dickensian. The Charles Dickens, was it A Christmas Carol? I think the book was called, with Scrooge, and I was, Ebenezer Scrooge. I always think of Scrooge McDuck. Anyway, you get like the ghosts, the Lokis of War of Realms, past, present, and future, and it's really interesting. Now there are a lot more Lokis he could have met, but I'm okay with just these 3. There's also conversation about Eldrith. Now this is something that's interesting that happens in this book. There's I'd say a soft retcon. Eldrith was, I think, his only appearance, but I know his first appearance was in issue number 400, giant size 400th issue back in 1989. That I had to look up what year it was. But one of the short stories in that book was Eldrith. He found Loki, and who was exiled but escaped from his prison. He was supposed to go in there for 2 weeks prison. Eldrith found him, nursed him to health, helped him out, taught him some spells, and Loki wound up betraying him and summoning Surtur to kill Eldrith, which was pretty messed up. And all the power of Eldrith seeped into Malekith. It was part of this, Loki. That was part of the deal. Here, there's a retcon. Eldrith was also in prison with Loki. We don't even see Eldrith in here. But he was in prison with Loki. And, basically just read the book to see the retcon that happened here. Is it a big deal? Yeah, not really, because I still see him as just being a betrayer, but here it makes him a little less, evil. Because having him, giving his soul, body, and everything up to Surtur, the fire demon, the Lord of Muspelheim, that's a big deal, as opposed to what happened in here. Anyway, we do get the different versions of Loki here. And we realize something important. Loki himself is actually responsible for starting the War of Realms. He didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident. I mean, he was doing what he was doing. He was screwing around, but he didn't realize that this dark elf, Malekith, was involved in this. So could this very well be the first chronological appearance of Malekith? Well, yes, I do believe it is. We get to see, he's a go-getter. Malekith is a freaking go-getter as a little kid. But we get to understand a little bit more about Malekith, and we learn why Malekith was formed, how he was, forged in the fires, so to speak, and or the darkness. Why he so this led him to the road to being forever accursed, and therefore led to the War of Realms. That was pretty surprising. I don't know why Eldrith was changed. Maybe that'll come back at some point. I hope it does. I hope there's a reason why that was changed, because that was a really interesting story back in the day. I don't see any reason to have changed that, but hopefully in a future issue we'll see why. In the meantime, this was a really good book. Really good issue that, you got to find a criticism. Sure, here's my criticism. There's no and no. There's no Thor in this. There's no Frost Giant in this. None of that nonsense happens. It's just Loki and Loki and Loki and Loki. That's it. That's all that's in this book, really. Enjoy. Professor Bell, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.